And it's taking its sweet time here. Okay, it's all set.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm calling to order the regular monthly meeting of the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation this Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. I'm going to conduct a roll call vote or a roll call of the members. John Stair, are you present?
Here.
John Wollenberg.
Here.
Jill Pack.
Here.
John Salovich.
Here.
Aaron Bidwell.
I'm here.
Sarah Moore. All right. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Joe Russ. Thank you for your IT support and technical support for Parks Department. Also want to recognize Jared Logston, our Superintendent of Parks, and Roger Burris, Counsel to the Board of Parks and Recreation. The minutes of February, or the draft minutes of February 10th, 2021 have been submitted. Is there a motion to approve or amend?
I would so move that we approve the minutes as written.
Is there a second to the motion to approve by member John Stair?
Second.
John Wollenberg seconds. Any discussion? Roll call vote then. John Stair?
Aye.
John Wollenberg?
Aye.
Jill Pack?
Aye.
John Salovich?
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell?
Aye.
I also vote aye. So the motion passes unanimously to approve minutes as submitted. Now is the time in the meeting for members of the public to make presentations of up to 3 minutes, presentations or comments or questions. Is there anybody out there watching or listening who would like to make a presentation? If so, please hold up your hand or somehow try to communicate with Joe or Jared. There being no public presentations, we'll move on to the staff reports. I would acknowledge that I see now Sarah Moore has joined us. Hello, Sarah.
Hi,
All right,
sorry, I had some issues when I first came in. It wasn't like letting me show up as a part of the group, but I've been listening.
No problem. Yeah, minutes were approved as submitted. It's time for staff reports. Let me do, before I turn it over to Jared for his report, I would say that there are a number, 5 or 6 items on the agenda that since they are not, they don't require board action this evening, in order to try to facilitate a quicker meeting, Jared will cover those in his superintendent's report. We'll then quickly go over, you'll have another question, opportunity to ask questions about it, but we'll breeze through that item on the agenda quickly, since it does not require board action and since he'll cover it here in his report. So Jared Logston, let me turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Yeah, so we're gonna go through these in the event that we want to save a little time. But as you can tell from the overpacked agenda, we are very busy in the Parks Department, ramping up for the summer season. Garden plots have been being improved for the past month, and plot sales will begin tomorrow. And participants will be allowed to enter their plots they reserve on April 1st, weather dependent, and the program will run through October 31st. Moving on to the golf course, in an effort to reduce some inaccuracies in the CAS register reports and improve some efficiencies, we are going to adjust the merchandise pricing to reflect including the sales tax and then rounding to the nearest quarter. So the previous prices might have been a whole dollar, and then when you add in sales tax, it's a random percentage. So we're just going to incorporate that sales tax and then adjust. And this is just to cut down on some of our coin counting throughout the day and kind of improve our cash use. The anticipated opening date for the golf course will be March 15th. And again, that is subject to the weather. We do have some rain on the way. If you look in the board packet, you will see that we are developing a volunteer program. Within the program, it's comprehensive in the ways that it identifies both long-term and one-time event volunteering opportunities. Interested community members can register on the town website soon, and they'll be able to both apply for one-time events to participate and also those regular activities which have volunteer job descriptions attached to them. Any applicants applying for one of those volunteer positions will go through a screening process and be interviewed prior to their commitment to the department. Also within the packet, you might have noticed the Idem recycling grant. This is kind of that first step towards enacting some of those principles of the climate action plan and incorporating recycling within our park district. So this grant was for 50% match, and the local cash match was $4,772. And that will include 4 permanent recycling and compost receptacles, 4 temporary receptacles that we can put out for events, and also 2 split rail fence cribs to collect green waste at our 2 community gardens. Moving on, Overly Warman Park, the department mayor, town council, and members of the park board attended the Overly Warman groundbreaking ceremony on Monday, March 8th at 11:30. We had a great turnout of the community support, and the media was also there. 2 more notes. The Heritage Trail Dog Park, we are continuing with drainage improvements, and we are still on track for the April 1st opening on both sides. And at that time, we'll also open up 100 additional dog park memberships. And finally, the Northern Rail Trail, there is surveying underway for the Northern Rail Trail segments, and the engineering and design is ongoing. And that is all the superintendent updates.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jared? All right, Jared, the director, Dave Moliterno, our director of maintenance services, and Mindy, director of recreational services, submitted reports. Is there anything you or they would like to add?
Dave's crews have been very busy today, just removing some trees that fell down from the windstorm, but they have been working all around the parks, getting the 2 gardens up to date, and also those improvements in the dog park, like we said. So they're stretched pretty thin, but they are still giving that excellent level of service. Mindy has been busy developing new programs for our recreation wing that we're going to start implementing over the summer. And we've also began interviewing for the full-time naturalist position, and those interviews are ongoing.
All right, very good. Then let's move on to our park board attorney, Roger Burris, for your report.
In accordance with your acceleration here, I think most of my comments can be covered in other agenda items. So unless anybody has any questions, I don't have anything else to add at this point.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Yeah, I think you will be called upon for some advice here on some of these items. Let's go on to new business. First item of new business is a proposed name change for the Zion Nature Center. Turn it over to Jared.
So the Zion Nature Center was a grassroots effort to incorporate a nature center in our community. And it was placed next to the Zion Nature Sanctuary Park. But now that we are changing locations and eventually having a permanent location, I was just proposing that instead of Zion Nature Center, the name is changed to Zionsville Nature Center to reflect the larger park department in town.
Do you know if there are any other old members of the Friends of Zion Nature Center, or do you expect any flack from some of the older supporters of the old, well, yeah, it's the same nature center, but you know, the adjacent to Zion Nature Center?
I believe the official Friends group has disbanded a couple of years ago. I have no doubt that those members are still engaged in the community. but I have not heard one or the other on their thoughts on the name or the name change.
Did Mindy have any comments on that?
When we spoke of it in person, as I recall, she was for it, and it kind of just makes sense now that we're moving from the actual Zion Nature Center or the Zion Sanctuary to the more.
I see Mindy, that she's
I'm
signed.
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah, I mean, I have no issues, and I don't think that any of the old friends who are still around and they're still very active within the community would have a concern as well. I mean, the original name was because of its location on the school grounds of what used to be Zion Park. But I will say that, you know, talking with visitors, and half the time they call us Zionsville Nature Center anyway, that it's just, you know, wouldn't it be anything that, you know, people would bat an eye and wonder why that it's changed. That I think it kind of fits with, you know, as the Nature Center looks to expand more into the community and to grow with the department, that, you know, that name change is a nice addition to that one to kind of highlight the whole community. And I know we've brought up in the past that there is a Zion Park. And so, you know, Zion Nature Center, we do get a little confused with the national park. So this one, there's no confusion. So.
Sarah Moore, does the library have a position on this?
The library doesn't, but I think it's a great idea. I have been, you know, I haven't been in the community for all that long, and I found out not too long ago that it wasn't the Zionsville Nature Center. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I thought
Any other
you would say,
questions? If
I thought
not,
somebody would say it should be the Hussey Mayfield Memorial Nature Center.
Yes, we should add even more words to this. I think that's a perfect idea.
All right,
Yeah,
are there any more questions? If not, is there a motion to change the name of the Zion Nature Center to Zionsville Nature Center?
I'll make a motion that we change the name of the Zion Nature Center to the Zionsville Nature Center.
Second.
Is there a second to John Stair's motion? John Salovich seconds the motion. Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'll take a roll call vote on the motion. John Stair?
Aye.
John Wollenberg?
Aye.
Jill Pack?
Aye.
John Salovich?
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell?
Aye.
Sarah Moore?
Aye.
I also vote aye, so the motion passes 7-0. Okay, on to, we've covered golf course merchandise pricing and Jared's report. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll move on to the Starkey Trail 3 stairs and the Turkey Foot pedestrian bridge. You've been submitted a extensive design and construction document package for the Starkey stairs, and a more slim version of a design for the Turkey Foot pedestrian bridge. Let me hand it over to Jared. What do you think we should be doing to try to get these projects completed?
So I spoke with the author of the 436-page SP3 stair document, and they're going to take out some of those irrelevant town codes. So that should slim that down a little bit and be a little less intimidating for a potential contractor to look it through. I think giving the medium size of the SP3 stairs and the small size of the Turkey Foot pedestrian bridge, I think we will have the best savings and opportunity to get a successful bid by pairing them. I began contact with both consultants to see what that looks like as far as sharing in that bidding process.
Should we, are we required to bid either or if combined, Roger?
Yeah,
We have to submit for a public bid process. In other words, there's a limit under which we might have other options.
Right. If, if a project is clearly under 25,000, then that's one, that's a sales process, but, and that's maybe one potential disadvantage to combining them because it puts us in the neighborhood of the $150,000 level where we have to do public bidding. But I mean, to some contractors, $500,000 is too small of a project. So I think we're in such a small already. I think it's more a matter of just making sure that our consultants are talking up the project, or that they are trying to identify potential bidders to help us get competitive bids. In a case like this, and we've seen in the past where there are times when when the contractors are so busy with larger projects that you may have trouble getting any bids. And talk about some of those tonight. But these are both just pretty unique projects. And I talked to the minor engineering firm on the Turkey Foot bridge project today, and he thought it made sense to combine them, but he was going to talk to a couple other engineers and a couple of contractors to see if he could get any more information. So I think it's still somewhat of a work in process. And, and you can imagine that on the SP3 stairs project, that based upon the level of detail that our consultants have provided, that's obviously, they were thinking that it would be a public bid process. So, we're still just trying to make sure that we do it in a way that will hopefully attract the most competitive bidding that we can in order to get the best deal that we can. So I think we'll have to comply with the legalities either way, and hopefully we'll get there.
If it's under $150,000, what you suggested that we don't have to have a publicized bid if it's under $150,000.
Then you'd still have to invite at least 3 contractors that or potential bidders to submit a quote. So it's like getting 3 quotes as opposed to 3 bids, or to public bidding. Other things that come into play, like bonding and if we come up with a better way to do it, or a better way to ensure success, then I think that's the way we should do it. And I think in terms of the board's approval of the project, or at least approving the plans and authorizing us to go to bid, I think you can give Jared and I the discretion to determine the best way to comply with Indiana law in putting a bid, so that we can do what the consultants think is the best way of getting bids.
Yeah, I could see you going to your prospective contractors and saying, I want a bid, I want a quote, on A, and I want a quote on B. I'm not sure if I would combine them, if there's any reason to do that, unless you saw that they were eager to do that, or they were saying, yeah, we can offer you some savings, and then you might change the game. But, whatever we authorize, I would give that discretion, or I would suggest that we give you that discretion to call that one as you see it.
So, hey, Roger. So if we get the 3 quotes and they come above that, the 100,000 that mark, so then those are now thrown out, and then we go to public bid, or do we throw them out and try again?
I think the process would be that, maybe if we get an indication that somebody would bid on either project at a level that would tell us that we would not be over the 150, then we would probably pursue that route. But if nothing else falls into place, then I think are looking at probably combining them and doing a public bidding process. You know, if in doubt, you can never be criticized for doing a public bidding process. The way the statutes are written just gives you the ability to not go through all that work if you're pretty sure it's going to be under 150 in total.
And is it still just, posted in the local newspaper, that kind of stuff?
That's only for projects that are over 150.
Right, okay.
So if you know you're not going to 50,000 is where you can just get quotes from 3 contractors. You still have to do it in kind of a public process where, where those quotes would be available to the public to review. So we certainly can't do it in secret, but that way, as long as you've sought 3 bids from 3 different contractors, even if you don't get 3 and you're under 150,000, then you could try to negotiate with one of the contractors to come up with something that makes sense.
So I think if we're looking for and I'd be happy to make this, let me try to make a motion here that we authorize Jared, acting under in consultation with Attorney Burris, to publicly invite quotes of a minimum of 3 bidders for our 2 projects or both projects in his discretion. And the projects are as submitted to us in terms of design and construction documents. So we've seen that.
And we do
Clear enough?
we need a motion to include approving the plans for both projects.
Okay, I'll take that amendment. So yeah, we authorize invitation for quotes on the projects as designed and submitted to our board for this meeting. All right, I've made that motion.
I'll second that.
Member Stair seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Jared, do you have any questions on your authority, or again, you can work with Roger, but.
Yep, we're good to go. The one thing I'd just add is if we do reduce that 400 pages and take out some of the irrelevant information, that we could still proceed with that document.
Yeah, that's understood. It's understood. Yeah, what we were manhole. Some of it was the size and shape of manhole covers from the town. That was from the town construction manual. So, all right, roll call vote on the motion. Do I need to repeat the motion? If not, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. John Stair.
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Salovich.
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell.
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I also vote aye, so the motion passes 7-0. All right, on to the next item of new business, which relates to our fee policy. Remember, we approved a month or 2 back our fee pricing, or fee policies especially on the recreational side of parks. And there is a proposal from Jared and staff relating to nonprofits and how they relate to our fee policy. Jared, I'll turn it over to you.
So we want to invite, the community and organized groups to utilize our facilities. So I just wanted to bring before the board the possibility to waive and negotiate fees with nonprofit groups. One instance that comes to mind is the Boy Scouts wanting to reserve shelter in the summertime on a consistent basis, and rather than charge them for each event so they can meet as their troop, waiving those fees so that they can meet for free, but still have this space dedicated to them during their meeting. And this would likely be on a case-by-case basis, but just with the authority to waive those when necessary or appropriate.
So you're seeking the authority to waive fees for nonprofit organizations.
Yep.
We need a motion.
Yes.
Oh, Roger.
I was just going to comment that in 2017, the Park Board adopted a policy on use of parks, which basically says that for nonprofit organizations, that they can use the parks without charge. But it also addressed, I mean, the main purpose of that policy was to provide that if it was a for-profit enterprise, that they would basically have to cover the cost. So, we could charge them for the additional cost that it takes, for us to provide the staffing or, open or close something. So there is a prior policy of this board that I think would kind of cover what we're talking about.
I think we'd be trying to, Roger, apply, make clear that policy applies to our fee schedules as adopted a month or two ago. Aaron Bidwell has asked whether, what's the criteria for a nonprofit? Is it 501c3? And I'd suggest that it's broader than a 501c3. That's a very narrow type of nonprofit organization, but there are state and probably other chartered nonprofit organizations that would qualify.
Yeah, like libraries, for example, are not 501(c)(3)s. I would be curious though about doing it on a case-by-case basis. You might run into some challenges then if you did give it to some nonprofits and not to others. Usually, I recommend doing something across the board if you're going to do it like that. That's what we do at the library anyway, is we have nonprofit pricing. And if you are any kind of nonprofit, we will offer that to you, because you don't want to run into just giving it to somebody and not somebody else and having somebody challenge that occurrence.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at is what is the criteria? What's the proof you have to show? Is there some kind of paperwork you have to demonstrate that you're a nonprofit? I mean, that's my real question.
Well, Roger and I are members of a bicycle organization that is an Indiana nonprofit. It certainly is not a 501c3. Does that qualify? So you can have fairly profit, let's say, I mean, it depends on it's the opinion of the beholder here, whether that particular organization is out for just to create a staff to do its own thing. It hasn't qualified as a charitable educational organization under IRS 501c3. So,
Right, but are we allowing like nonprofits to do fundraising, gatherings? I think it's a little more nuanced than just saying, okay, if you're a nonprofit, you cannot be charged.
So,
and whatever we put in writing is fine, but I'm just saying there's more to consider here than just, are you nonprofit, not nonprofit?
Yeah, and that's a great point. Fundraising is a separate issue, and that is already captured within a policy that if it is a fundraising event that would come before the board in the following month. And that was also captured within the shelter policy we wrote. And this is more directed towards just use and the fee structure we just approved. Yeah, but I agree, we're raising some great questions here. And it might take a little bit more research.
So, Aaron, you could require them to show that they're organized as an Indiana or other state not-for-profit, which that gives you some limited ability. Or are you suggesting that we leave it to the discretion of the superintendent?
I certainly wouldn't want to create more paperwork or work for Jared or any of the staff. It's just that, like Sarah said, you don't want to get in a situation where the discretion is at one person, or someone feels discriminated against, or one person comes and says, I'm not a nonprofit organization. I think we need to be very clear about what we're saying.
But one thing that to think about is as a Cub master and renting locations around the state, for the state parks and such, there's group areas that are designated for, non-for-profits. The state does not require you to show any documentation that you are non-for-profit. I can, any one of you guys can do it, but once you go there and they show up and you don't look like you're for, what you say you are, then you can be, asked to leave. So it's basically an honor, like parks is an honor system. And that's kind of how the state operates on the campground areas that they designate for youth.
What's Scouts honor, John? Is it two
Scouts honor,
fingers?
right? Three, yeah. At Cub, if you were Cub, you can do two.
Okay, that's I thought it was different for each.
Well, then that might be something to model it after the language that's already written and whatever the state says, maybe it's something to model. But I'm just thinking of, I'm just going to use the swim club as an example because that's my experience. But, when you've got 200 and something swimmers and we're having a gathering, it is a 501(c) organization. And, you can just imagine anyone being like, okay, so you have 300 people that you're bringing to this park and you're not going to pay for it at all, like in the community. So I just want to avoid having any kind of subjective opinions about who is considered nonprofit and who isn't.
Hey, Jared, outside of the Boy Scouts, how many requests are we getting to not pay for shelter space?
Well, it wasn't even to not pay yet. We received a request for a church to utilize the gazebo at Lincoln Park on Sundays, just 4 in a row. And rather than charge them that rate, I was considering charging them for one of the 4 weeks or something to that effect. Just to not discourage the use, we want to promote the use. People come to our parks.
I just wonder, if the requests aren't coming in on a daily basis, maybe, are we overthinking this and maybe just allow you to use your discretion? I mean, I'd be comfortable with that.
I'd also be comfortable with that. Again, we're trying to say for a broad set of organizations, including federally, IRS 501(c)(3s, non-for-profit, incorporated as not-for-profits, but it's Jared's. I think we're left with having to say, Jared, it's your discretion.
Okay. I would strongly encourage you to do the same thing for everybody that would fit in that category. If I'm thinking about the library's policy on this, I think it is fairly broad and it just says nonprofit. We have individual and then we have nonprofit. And it's kind of up to me to make that decision. But then there's also that separate policy about not being able to make any kind of profit within the library. Like we don't do any fundraising or anything unless it's a library organization.
That's a good point. Maybe just not, because I'm just thinking of religious, that's not a 501(c)(3) under Indiana not-for-profit, I don't think. I'm okay with, yeah. Any other, is there a motion out there, or then we'll have another chance for discussion, but anybody want to make a motion or ask further questions?
I make a motion to give Jared the discretion to waive fees for non-for-profits.
So the motion, my member Salovich, is to grant the superintendent discretion to waive fees under our fee policy for not-for-profit organizations.
I'll second
Is there a
that.
second? John Wollenberg seconds. Any more questions or discussion?
I just would agree with Sarah that I think it has to be applied equally to everyone. Everyone that's a nonprofit gets the same treatment. It's not like someone, whether it's Jared or anyone, can pick and choose which nonprofits we prefer. It's across the board. If you're a nonprofit, you get nonprofit status.
That's why I would strongly suggest whatever you are going to do, and I agree with giving you discretion to do it, but I would strongly suggest that you write it out and make sure that you're applying it equally, because otherwise you could get yourself into some serious trouble. And I would hate to see that happen. That's why I brought it.
Yeah, like I'm sure that you're not going to make some decisions based on who you like or don't like, but as soon as anything happens, you never know what people are going to assume was the reason, and then, you know, bring more controversy with it.
Everyone has their own interpretation of things, unfortunately.
Okay, good discussion. Any further questions before we move, vote on the motion? All right. So we're voting on the motion to provide the superintendent discretion to waive fees for not-for-profits. Let's start the roll call vote. John Stair,
Aye.
John Wollenberg,
Aye.
Jill Pack,
I,
John Solovich. John, you're muted. Uh-oh, John's just run away from his seat. Let's continue with Aaron Bidwell,
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I vote aye. John Solovich, how do you vote on the motion?
Aye.
The motion unanimously carries 7-0. All right.
Sorry, I had a kid issue.
We figured we saw you running. All right. The next item on the new business is sponsorship policy. Jared, take it away.
All right. I hope you had an opportunity to look over the sponsorship policy. Mindy did a lot of work to help create this document, and I think it's pretty strong. So we wanted to provide an opportunity to, benefit local organizations by offering them an opportunity to advertise and sponsor our programming. And this would be revenue to subsidize the cost of events and reduce our prices as we create these community events and also programming. So within the sponsorship policy, it dictates what is ineligible, what companies we would not allow to enter into the program. And it's just to create that kind of partnership between the public and private sectors. The most common use of this would be in our catalogs that will start coming out that showcase our programs. So that'll be delivered to a large portion of the community, either electronically through newsletters or on the website. And then also through our social media posts, we would highlight their logos and let the community know that they helped promote this activity or this event that they're enjoying. So.
It was very, I was very worried when I saw it, and then the more I read it, the more comfortable I became. But Roger, I'm sure, has history, and I'm curious as to what schools or library is doing. This would be new, folks. This would be new. So.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of history with this sort of thing, but I think it's something that places like the Lions Club have dealt with this on, well, primarily with like Little League, where they get sponsors putting signs up around the diamond. And for a long time, the Lions Club was not in favor of that, but then it's one of those things where it's like everyone, even arenas can't resist the lure of the easy money that comes from corporations wanting to advertise. So if you're going to do it, I think it's a good idea to have a policy. This is obviously a very extensive one. And I also wondered whether, and it recognizes that the town, might come up with a policy that could supersede ours. So I think that's another thing that I was thinking was that, we have jurisdiction over the parks, but nowhere else in town. And I'm guessing that the town may be facing this sort of thing in the future as well. So we'd want to work with the town and be consistent with any policy that they have along these lines.
I think it looks great. And the only concern that I had reading through this is it seems to me that the golf course probably has a different kind of opportunity than the rest of the parks and the rest of the programs. So I would propose that we allow the golf course to keep this within their own budget And then, we settle up at the end of the fiscal year with the Parks Department, instead of trying to funnel whatever they bring in sponsorship money in real time to the Parks Department. I think we should just wait and make the accounting simple and let the Parks Department keep that internally for the run of the season.
Was that your intent, Jared, was to use again, we budget separately for the golf course, and their income also goes into a separate golf course operating fund. Is that what you intended to do with the golf course advertising revenues?
Yep. And the goal was to eventually branch this out as like for like. So community events would sponsor future community events. If we had a program sponsor, that would obviously go towards the program, and golf for golf. Yep. So just strengthening each of these branches.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I think that'll make it much cleaner and much easier for everybody. That's great.
We're looking at doing similar things at the library, and have done it at other libraries I've been with. I think generally you can do it in a way that gets attention to the people who are sponsoring, but it is not like overwhelming to the community, and having a policy around it is perfect, so that, you never know what somebody might want to advertise, but you can say that this is what you'll accept. I think it looks great.
Yeah, I think back to some of my experiences around the country, and I remember seeing sponsors on many of the posters for events and things, but it was never distracting. But I think there was just that association that they invested in the parks, and I think it's just gonna bring the community that much closer together and unite us.
Hey, Jared, I've got a couple of questions. First off, I really like it as well. I think this looks really good. In the event that you can't fill sponsorship opportunities, like, for example, there's no walk sponsor, does the title and or community sponsor get those added benefits that the walk does, or do we just kind of delete that for that specific event?
Are you asking if we did get maybe a community sponsor, would they get bumped up to title, or?
Well, yeah, maybe that, or if like you filled 2 of the spots but not the third, do those social media mentions or those logos, do they just go away, or how does that work?
I think anything we guarantee them, we would make sure that we satisfied. So if we're having an event, we're going to have a comm schedule of how we want to promote that, and that's what this kind of goes in with. So if we plan to advertise for an event 10 times on social media, it's the sponsors will just be captured in that as well.
Okay. Also, in the event that there is a title sponsor, community sponsor, and walk sponsor that are all dentists, how will you treat that?
I think I would make a pun involving teeth and walking.
No, really, just like, are you going to exclude, is there something in there? Because in my former corporate life, I know when I would advertise, I would want to make sure that I was the only person of that field that could advertise for that specific event. So you might, I'm sure others are going to want that too. If a dentist takes a title sponsor, a realtor, local realtor, they might want to make sure they're the only named realtor on that specific event. So maybe incorporate that.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, we'll have some kind of saturation index to make sure we're not just promoting competitors equally. And
I'm fine. I mean, if they do, I would just, for the specific events, they can do every event. That's great. But,
No, I think that's a great thought. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Any other questions, or is there a motion to perhaps adopt the sponsorship policy as presented?
Could I might have some small edits, that I think if you could make it subject to legal approval, that would satisfy my concerns.
With that in mind, subject to legal review from Roger, I would propose that we accept the sponsorship plan that is presented by the superintendent tonight.
Second that.
Member Stair makes the motion. Member Wallenberg seconds the motion to subject to legal review to adopt the sponsorship policy as presented. Any further questions? Then I'll take a roll call vote. John Stair,
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salovich,
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell,
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I also vote aye, so the motion passes 7-0. All right, the sponsorship policy is adopted. We've talked about volunteers, and Mindy, thank you so much for the, I mean, I know the volunteer manual came from you, and it was so great. I know volunteers who want to get involved in the hoop house, and this was perfect. They're experienced volunteers, and they thought it was great. And same kudos as well for your help in with Jared on the sponsorship policy. Any other questions on that volunteer manual? It was covered in our staff report, but if you do have questions, it was a good read.
Do we have it listed somewhere who has to get a background check and who doesn't? Like, we have all of our library stuff have to have background checks. So I would want, if I can, it's not in our agreement, but people who are volunteering at the nature center, I would like to have background checks.
Yep. Moving forward, if it's a one-off event, we're not going to require that because they'll be under, constant supervision. But if it is one of those positions, those job description, volunteer positions, they will go through a screening, background check and interview, actually. So 3 levels there.
All right. We've also discussed the Idem recycling grant earlier. Any further questions on that? Again, it was covered in the superintendent report. Next item of new business is the proposed Wolf Run letter of intent that was submitted to the board. Jared, would you like to give some background on that?
Yes. 1 second. I'm going to pull up something in case you all are not familiar with Wolf Run.
I don't remember receiving anything about Wolf Run.
Okay.
It was buried. It was kind of in the middle of the package. It was a two or three page letter of intent from department, and it should be also from the board. But go ahead. Yeah, you'll be able to catch up fast, John.
Yeah.
Yep. So there have been some language changes to the letter to reflect that it is from the board rather than the department. So those were captured. Also had some notes from Roger. So those revisions will take place. But the overarching concept is we have a very philanthropic couple in the community that have assisted for many years in many operations, and that is the Carpenters. And there is a large parcel on the north side of Zionsville. I'm going to share my screen here, which previously was a golf course, Wolf Run Golf Club. I believe it's around a little over 200 acres, and it is just phenomenal. Nature is beginning to reclaim it. Eagle Creek runs right through it. It has existing clubhouses, and it just seems like a really good fit to both protect such a large parcel of land and potentially make it the permanent home for our nature center in the future. So this idea has been floated for a little bit behind the scenes. And rather than let a potential developer come in and purchase the land since it's been on the market, the Carpenters decided to act and purchased the parcel and are now the legal owners of it. So it is their intent to make this a nature-based public space. And I believe this is the first step in us walking towards that shared goal. So I just wanted to spell out, this is a non-binding document, but it is just going to eternalize or capture our shared vision to explore what this property could mean for the Zionsville Parks Department, Park Board, and the town in general. I think with board approval, we could start allocating resources. We could potentially get some engineers on site to see if the building is salvageable. I know there's potentially some structural components that might need to be addressed soon. I think it's going to allow us to start promoting the idea and incorporating it in future master planning documents. And I just wanted to take that first step and show the Carpenters our good faith in joining them on this path.
This is huge. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
And there's a lot of unknowns. How is it going to be funded? But I think we can start figuring out those riddles as well. There's a newly formed Parks Foundation, which can act as a separate wing for fundraising. There's just a lot of potentials, but I just wanted to show the Carpenters that we're committed to exploring this further.
And Nancy Carpenter is one of the principals in the newly formed or being formed foundation. So that's important to know. She's in touch with the mayor, with Roger Burris, in terms of creating the foundation, or especially with the mayor in terms of trying to come up with vision for this property and how it would involve parks and or the town. So it is super positive.
Yeah, and it's important to note that this is the Carpenters' property. It is not the foundation's. So this would be a partnership in exploring this with two private residents rather than another nonprofit. So just to look at that as well.
I've been up there. It is magnificent. It is a beautiful property. And in the, 3 to 5 years that it has been not a golf course, it has reverted itself back to a beautiful setting already. And there are unlimited opportunities for us up there for a wide ranging list of activities that could take place.
It's what the town needs.
I'm really excited about it. Is there a plan in the future that we would, that it would become town property, or would it always be kind of a joint venture?
To be explored. Again, identifying that funding in the future is going to be, one of the next steps, but not necessarily the next step. I believe just the good faith moving forward and beginning to plan is where we're at right now.
Well, and it's also offering in-kind services, engineering advice. And I think there is civil engineering advice too. If you've been up there, you know that the roads have begun to deteriorate. So there's a lot of infrastructure issues that need to be addressed there too. And that's certainly something that we and or the town can get involved in giving advice. And I think that it seems to me, Jared, I don't know if I'm going too far off the reservation here, but I believe that the town is supportive of that too. So you have Public Works supportive of that, and it's not just us. We're a part of it and a big part of it, but it's an entire town commitment. We're just kind of adding our voice with this letter.
I second what John said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important that we add our voice, I think, too. So.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I do want to point out that that the town, the Parks Department cannot, we can't use public funds to make improvements to private property. But I think if it's phrased properly, where what we're doing is maybe spending some money or using some of our staff or town staff to review the feasibility of potential acquisition of property or lease or whatever. And I think that's a reasonable use of our funds, as long as it's understood to be that way. Yeah, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. There's been a lot of talk about, finding some parkland in what used to be Union Township, because there is none so far. So this would be like instant park success for what used to be Union Township.
In my backyard, so that makes me.
So
Also,
we've had a draft letter of intent submitted in our package. Is there a motion to approve myself on behalf of the board and Jared as superintendent and subject to review by Roger of issuing this letter of intent to the Carpenters?
I would
Yes.
suggest too that you be a signatory to it, Tim, on
yeah.
behalf of the board. It's not written that way right now, but yes. So with that in mind and subject to legal review again, I would propose that we go ahead and send this letter adding Tim as a signatory on behalf of the board.
A second.
There's your motion
Okay,
from
sorry.
John Stair. John Salovich makes the second. Are there further questions or discussion? If not, I'll call a roll call vote. John Stair,
Aye.
John Wallenberg,
Aye.
Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salovich,
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell,
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I also vote aye, so the motion passes unanimously. All right, Jared, if you could get that letter of intent to Roger and me, or a final last draft, we'll get it going. Okay, we've already covered garden plots in the staff report. Any other questions on garden plot program? Thank you, Bonnie Black. She helps us administer that, our staff assistant. All right, let's move on to Heritage Trail Park Phase 2 construction contract. And we also have with us Tricia McClellan, a principal of Rundell Ernstberger, and and I'll turn it over to Jared and Trish to give us an update on our bid process for this Phase 2 park project.
All right. Heritage Trail Park Phase 2, the bidding did close on Monday, and we are still tabulating that and looking over the bid that was received. Tricia, do you have anything you would like to add to the process?
Just that we've reviewed the bid and it's compliant as far as all the forms that needed to be submitted. And I can share what the bid amount was. You know, it was open publicly, so I can share that and what the alternate was if you would like to hear that. And just some other conversations that we've had with contractors after receiving one bid. Just to try to find out, you know, why that was, what the reasoning was for that. Because we did, as soon as we advertised, we did contact as many contractors as we could think of just to let them know that the bid was out there so they could take a look at it.
Okay, so again, this was a suggestion that, again, this is a fairly large project, but I wouldn't put it in the, you know, it's in the medium size category. Is the bidder a well-recognized contractor and effective? I can't remember the magic word, Roger, help me out here. Reliable contractor who you could recommend, Tricia?
Yeah, so the one bid was by Globe Asphalt. And they actually did a large portion of the work on, or a certain portion of the work on the cultural trail in downtown Indianapolis, which is one of our projects. So we know them from that project. The total bid amount was $505,013.50. And then we had an alternate for the pathway on the west side, which ran from the park to what could be the future fire station property, or basically up to 400 South. And that alternate was $13,988.50.
There was some question about the calculation of concrete costs. I know that we were maybe going to seek clarification on. Is that correct? But no news on that, I take it.
So what Tim's referring, we often ask for unit prices along with the bid cost. And that's just so we have an idea of, what, if there's any change orders, if something is removed from the project or something is added, we have that unit cost that we can go from. So, you eliminate that need to negotiate for that particular item. The unit cost for concrete was higher than what we typically see, almost double what we typically see. And that, I'll preface this with the bid amount is higher than what the cost estimate was. So that's some of the reason that we went back and, and looked at those specific numbers. All the other unit costs look good, but with that number being higher for the concrete costs, that could be part of the reason that it was, the bid was higher. I did call Globe Asphalt just to, again, talk to them and kind of see where they stood, and and with most contractors, they're willing to talk to us and negotiate where we need to, if we need to be able to bring the project closer to that budget amount, that estimate amount that was given.
So Jared, if we could resolve and realize more reasonable, or again, it may be a clarification, but either realize or clarify that the concrete costs are somewhat less than they appear. Would you recommend that we approve this bid?
Yeah, I think if we get closer to our appropriated number, remember that additional appropriations will occur on the 15th. So we will be asking for these funds for this project from town council next week. We have a strong case that the funds will be approved. They were identified in the master plan, this project, long ago, and we do have the cash reserves to justify this expense. It was just during the budgeting process that capital projects were pulled out to balance the budget. And then moving forward, we could ask for these additional appropriations. So that's just where we are. I think if we are to delay this project, we are going to have construction at our new dog park, at one of our premier parks, right in the middle of summer, right when we're at peak usage. So the earlier we can get this started, I think that's going to be more successful and make the community a little bit happier. Especially on a hot summer day when we have our brand new dog park and 300 people wanting to use it.
So
the current schedule, construction would start in April and be substantially complete by August. So if you were to deny this because of the budget and rebid it, you just, like Jared said, keep that in mind that you'd be at least another month out from that schedule.
One thing I was curious, you were talking about with obviously the concrete prices. I'm currently doing purchasing for a plastic injection molder, and all pricing and everything is absolutely bonkers. I mean, there's materials not to be had. There's nothing. I mean, I buy plastic and there's no plastic. So, my first thought is how, concrete is very, flexible anyhow. And always when the prices always go up, that's the first thing that just skyrockets. So you feel that's a big part of this?
That could be part of it. Steel has recently gone up.
Yes. You can't get steel either.
You can't get steel. So the playground price has probably gone up, and fuel, which you wouldn't think about, but trucking costs have gone up because the price of fuel has gone up. So
you can't get product because they can't get trucks to deliver.
Yes.
So it's a nightmare what I'm dealing with. And I apologize, I didn't get to view much of the packet because this week has just been absolutely bonkers. So.
I feel your pain.
Well, I also have concerns that it ain't going to get easier in terms of trying to attract qualified, responsible bidders at a good price. And I would move that we approve the bid subject to council clearing or unearmarking the funds earmarked for this at this next meeting. And that subject to the second is subject to clarification and renegotiation of unit concrete costs and that we would provide Jared in consultation with Tricia the authority to hold those negotiations. So
And
that's the
I'm
motion.
assuming,
Bid subject to council approval and clarification of the concrete costs.
is that just the base bid, Tim, and not the
Yeah.
alternate? Okay.
Correct, just the base bid, so no alternate. Is there a second to that motion I've made?
I'll second that.
Jill Pack has seconded the motion. Is there discussion or questions? If not, I'll proceed to a roll call vote. John Stair,
Aye.
John Wollenberg. John Wollenberg. Aye, so John, that was an aye. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salovich,
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell,
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I also vote aye, so the motion unanimously carries. So Jared, would you and Tricia please coordinate to get back with the successful bidder? And let us know if you need anything else in the meantime. You know, if there's clarification required or even a special meeting for some emergency reason, we'd be happy to do that on this very important project.
Tricia, can you send me a copy of that bid, please?
Yes, I scanned it in and intended to send it to you today, so I'll get that to you in the morning.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to old business. Tricia, we've got two items here. Again, we've done a little bit of Overly Warman Park updates on the groundbreaking, which was great, covered regional news. So before we move on to the South Extension Rail Trail bid package, Tricia, would you like to say anything about Overly Warman?
Overly Warman is kicking off, obviously, from the groundbreaking. Contractor is going to start working on falling trees outside of the floodplain. There's a certain window that we have to get the trees down, so it's not during bat season. So they should be started on that, and we'll just continue to roll from there.
Neighborhood seems to be on board and they are clued into the construction schedule. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, and Jared and I have the HOA president, so we'll be sure to keep in contact with him and the Friends of Overly Warman Park.
And just to further that, I tried to get in front of it at the groundbreaking and apologize in advance for any hammers they hear throughout the day. And they assured me they've been hearing that for the past year anyways. So it just goes along with the birds, I guess, out there.
As I was leaving there, one of the ladies that live right by the parking lot stopped me and asked me some questions about the hiding of the playground. She said that they were told that mound was supposed to be there and hide the playground. The mound got moved. Is the mound going to stay? Is the plow, so she's got some serious, I told her to talk to the HOA and join the meeting here, but I don't think she did. But was there, 4 houses along that road right there that faces that parking lot, I think, something like that. So she was like in the middle, like facing right at the parking lot, and she's had 2 little kids. And so, but.
I would comment that one of the requirements when we accepted the donation of the land was that the builder would notify everyone buying homes in there of the future park. So, and it was also in the declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So if any of the lot owners, homeowners, complain that they didn't know about it or whatever, it's not our fault and it's not the developer's fault. We put in special requirements so that we wouldn't have that sort of a problem.
All right, let's move on to our next item of old business, and that is an important one, and that is the proposed review and approval of the design and bid package for the south extension of our Big Four rail trail. So there's a lot to digest, but it is very important. And we're going to ask Jared and Tricia McClellan to help guide us through what has been submitted.
Tricia will help us with some of the specifics, a little bit more detail, but I just want to bring up the point that this project would coincide with a public works project along Starkey Avenue. And we really want to coordinate with them later in the summer for closing Starkey Avenue to both replace our bridge and to do the project in that area that they have planned. I think that's a better service to our community to close that road once rather than twice. So getting this moving forward is crucial in my mind, but I think it's very important for the community as a whole. Tricia, if you'd like to talk about some of the specifics of this portion.
Yep, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has with the plans, and I know you've all heard this before, but I'm just going to run through it real quick so you can hear it again. What you saw in the plans includes, we'll start at Starkey Avenue. That's where the project is going to start. So that includes the replacement of the bridge over Starkey Avenue for the rail trail, and it will give us a much wider opening for Starkey Avenue. Right now it's very tight, so that'll be a much wider opening. That's the point where the new trail will be paved. Right now it's aggregate, so that will be paved at 12-foot width from Starkey Avenue to the 100-foot bridge, or the bridge over Eagle Creek. And at that point, the trail will widen to 15 feet wide. And then it will continue with that 15-foot width to the Von Terra connection. And then after, the existing Von Terra trail, it will actually connect up with the trailhead on Zionsville Road. And the trailhead includes a restroom building with a small storage area behind it, which we think will be valuable with Overly Warman right there. 17 parking spaces, a small plaza area, and lighting. And if you go out there today, if you see it from the neighborhood or you see it from Zionsville Road, you'll notice there's a hill with some new trees and then some older trees that kind of buffer the two houses that are there from the neighborhood. That hill and those trees will stay. So the trailhead will be very much buffered from the neighborhood, and that parking will be very much buffered from that neighborhood. So there won't be car lights shining into people's yards or anything like that. In addition, it gives us such a nice end or starting point there on the southern end of the Big Four rail trail, with a place where people can gather, and even a small plaza, if there's small events that, you could have for kickoff from that end. It'll include a bike repair station and then bike racks, of course.
Is there anything special in the project for the entry to the bridge, the entry bridge of Overly Warman Park?
So we'll have to coordinate. We'll have to connect with that. Most of the special entrance is actually the Overly Warman connection. We did have signage that will match the directional signage for Overly Warman. We do have an extra sign that's going to be a part of this project that points to, and it'll say Overly Warman Park essentially. And then we do have a new entry sign, which matches all the other standard park signs at the trailhead, which basically says Big Four Rail Trail.
One thing I do need to bring up, which is good news, we were awarded the next level trail. The program was put on pause in 2019 or in 2020 when it was about to be awarded due to COVID, but they did restart it, and the governor did award Zionsville 1.8 million. And within that grant application, the northern and southern portions were identified. Yeah, it's fantastic for us, absolutely. But within the grant application, it was identified that the trail would be 15-foot wide on both the north and south portions. And while we were creating these documents, we did scale back that southern portion to 14 and 12 So we have two options. We can either work with Tricia to quickly update that to 15 foot within the construction documents, or we can attempt to reach out to Next Level Trails and kind of tell them our position on why we've changed that.
Yeah, and to give the background on why that was changed, there was cost considerations, but there was also considerations of those current users of that natural surface path who objected to expanding the width of that area and that possible. One thing we're doing with those folks is Jared and Dave Moliterno are looking at a possibility of a natural surface trail that the Parks Department Maintenance Group could build that would parallel or be on the wing of the embankment that would go along the asphalt paved path. Yeah. So Trish, do you have any? I don't know if there's a state standard. I doubt if there's a 15-foot standard at state level. What do you suggest?
There is not. So the minimum width for federal funding, which does not apply to us in this case, it's going to be bond, and then the grant money is 10 feet. So we're well above that width. 15 feet is recommended. The more people, the more bikes you get on the rail trail. So, and you know that from being out there, if you've got a little more width, it just makes it easier for people walking too wide and bikes and everything to pass each other. But yeah, as far as state regulations, there's no requirement for that.
What is the Monon? I know they obviously threw, is that 10 or that's only like 12, and that's not very wide.
It varies.
Depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Carmel is probably 25, 30 feet wide.
Oh, exactly. The Midtown, but yeah, but through the, go like south of there towards Indianapolis.
Usually 10 to 12 feet. Yep.
We have an 8-foot width from the Pine Street ramp to basically the town hall. And that's a big priority, is to try to widen that. And the next level trail grant might be useful. Either the bond money or one of the two will be useful in now being able to attack that need that we have, because that's a choke point. And again, the compromise we made here and going to 12 feet was, okay, it's 15 feet all the way, past the Overly Warman Park entrance, which has some bike features, to the 100-foot bridge, and it's only on the other side of the 100-foot bridge where you meet what is now the natural surface path, that it would be 12 feet, which is approximately the same width as that natural surface path is today. And that was widened, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago from 10 feet to 12 feet, that natural surface path.
So, yeah, and this always could be something where we widen it 15 years from now to the 15.
Oh, yeah.
As population does double by 2050 projected, but it's just figuring out what we want to do at this point and which of those two solutions we want to approach to satisfy the grant.
If the plans were approved for bid tonight, the plan would be to advertise it next week, and we would have bids due before the next board meeting, just shortly before the next board meeting, so that we could present those bids at the next board meeting.
And you'll get unit prices on asphalt. So if we did find out from the state that it was the best course of action was to widen that to 15 foot, that would be an add. So no problem in terms of bidding the project, right, Trish?
Right. Like Jared said, we could either make that change pretty easily before we bid it next week, or we could wait and, if required, if the negotiations didn't work out with the grant administrator, then yes, we could have that as a change order.
Other questions? We're pursuing our final 3 parcels of land we're working on. Again, we had authorized to even take legal action on that, but there are negotiations going on all the two parcels for the trailhead and for the final remaining bit near the south end of the unimproved section of the trail. So near the Overlay Warman entrance.
I don't think we can go to bid as quickly as what Tricia just suggested because of the property acquisition issues that hopefully will be resolved within the next 30 days, but I certainly can't guarantee that. So Tricia, we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, let me restate, they would be ready to bid next week, but yeah, we can determine what that advertised date is based on those negotiations.
I'm not sure that I heard an answer on what we're going to do or how we're going to proceed on the question of whether it should be 15 feet wide or 12 feet wide. Can you clarify that for me, Trish?
Yeah, I think I need to hear from the board of what you think, which is it better to go ahead and increase it now, and increase that cost? Or would you rather we talk to the grant administrator and see if they're up to? So I think that's the two options the board needs to sort of talk through.
Well, for me, I would kind of follow your leading there on what you think is best based on your experience with issues like this.
In my experience, and you never know when you're talking, but in my experience, they've been very easy to deal. Most grant administrators, when you've got a good reason for, going a little bit different than maybe what was written in the grant application. So the reason of the soft trail for runners, beside with the available width that we have, would be a good reason for them to see. No guarantees, but yeah, in my experience, that's.
And
thank you.
And I'll play both sides of this. So I support the running alongside until we do get the natural trail, at which point in the future we may widen based on use. But also materials are going to be cheaper today than they're going to be in 15 years. So there's that to look at as well. I just want to put out both options, and I support either one, and we'll either write the grant, see if we can get the change of terms, and then put in the alternate as an option. Or, if they don't agree to the terms, then we'll have that alternate to just those unit prices to increase it to 15. So
I think we go to the 15 and do the alternate and make the call at the time.
I mean, were you getting a lot of people who were upset about this idea, or is this just like a couple people? I mean, the cost is definitely a big consideration here.
Yeah, there's a substantial, there's objections to even paving it, really. That's the main one. Oh, this is such a nice natural service. And if you go there, it's a lot of dog walkers, a lot of trail runners, the women's former cross country coach runs there all the time. The cross country team will use that path. So the compromise was, okay, we'll try to minimize, we have to pave it. This is an artery. This is an arterial sort of path. So, but we'll, try to take steps to, we'll keep it at the same width and try to get some other natural surface way to get from the bridge to the creek.
And like Tim said, we have identified a potential path for a soft trail, and with a little signage, we could, satisfy that soft surface path for runners and dog walkers.
So no way I want to lose the grant. So don't. Yeah. So I'm not proposing that we stick stubbornly to 12 feet and forget that grant. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But I would, my judgment is that 12 will be fine, will be great and be appreciated even by the current users of the natural path. And yeah, we'll need 15, but we have other higher priorities right now to get that 8-foot section, that mile of 8-foot widened to at least 12, if not 15. So we got other work to do. So John, or we, yeah, again, if somebody wants to say 15 now, and I'm not going to dig into. I see the issue, but I think it sounds like it's reasonable to stick with 12 and go to the administrator first and say, is this a big deal or not?
Was it, I mean, in the area where it is that size, where it is 15 feet, it's needed right now, correct? I mean, is the usage something that we think we're going to need it to be that wide now, or is it something that we think as the population grows, we're going to need it?
Yeah, no, the 15, if you were Von Terra, yeah, we've had cars on that and we've had to put up signs to keep cars off that 15-foot path. So no, but as soon as the connection is made, that's the thing. It's a little bit unpredictable. And we required Von Terra to do 15, and kudos to them. They said, fine, no problem. And that's why we want to at least keep it 15 all the way past the Overly Warman entrance onto the bridge. And then it narrows slightly after that bridge as an accommodation to those natural path users. But no, I mean, it's way too, there's the use is very minimal right now, but that's not relevant because it's only after Overly Warman gets built, and this is a huge artery through the town. That's what we're trying to predict. Yep. And we all know 15 someday will be needed.
So there's your answer. 15 will be needed.
Well, is the grant written for 15? That's why I was confused, because Tim, I heard you say the opposite a second ago. So I just want to make sure the grant's written for 15, but
the grant proposal as originally submitted was for 15. That was 2 years ago. In the last year, we've reduced it to 12. So now we're out. We have to go back and say, hey, we've changed our what Tricia is saying. We owe it to them to go back and say there's been a slight change here. It's now 12 foot, not 15, at least for this part of the trail. This small part. This is just a small, portion of it.
Are we giving up any funding that way?
No. That's what I'm saying is if the grant maker said, well, I'm sorry, you can't change it, then so be it. That's fine. We'll do it 15, and we'll go to the trail running and dog walker community and say, I'm sorry, but we couldn't pass up $1.8 million.
Okay, so just through that section, the natural trail is you're talking about that being 12, going to them in 12, so we can have the path for soft. Is that correct?
It's a kind of a hybrid, John. So the current natural surface 12-foot trail gets paved at 12 feet. There's then a plan for the maintenance department to create a soft natural surface trail, a new one down, on the side of the embankment.
I guess my question is, if we did 15, would we not be able to do that? Is my question.
We could do the soft trail. That'll come later either way.
It's the soft trail that's adjacent, directly parallel and adjacent with the asphalt path. If we have 15 feet, the plateau is essentially 15 feet. So if we have our 15-foot paved and then we try to add, a soft on the side, that just would be more grading. There's kind of a ditch on that side. So it just would be more grading and extending the top of the bank out just a little bit. So it gets a little more complicated, when you do that.
Okay, I think speaking for myself, I think I understand the issue, but I don't understand how to word that in a motion that we can all vote on. Maybe Tim could do that if he has a greater understanding than me.
Yeah. I mean, we just approved the design, and we can always come back and amend our approval and say, okay, it'll be 15 because we don't want to lose the grant and it's required that it be 15. So I don't think it's a problem, John.
Okay.
Now, Roger, on the parcels, what stage do we have to be in before we can bid this? Do we need fee simple or agreements to purchase? Where are we going? Because this is that we can't hold up. I mean, this has to be done. Well, yeah.
Roger, you're on mute.
Sorry. Ideally, we'd have fee simple, but and I think we'll have that on the one. I'm just not sure about the other two. Another thought was whether to have an alternate, where we can delete something if things don't work out. So those are things we can consider and see how it goes in the next 30 days. Hopefully, some of those will get resolved. But just for example, once you agree with the property owner, then you get into other issues, like if they have a mortgage, you have to get a mortgage release, which is an issue when it's a partial acquisition, because you have to get a partial mortgage release, and then you're kind of at the mercy of the bank in dealing with that. If it's a full acquisition, it's not such an issue because you're buying the whole property and you're going to pay off their mortgage. There's
the trailhead
issues.
parcels. The trailhead parcels are complete parcels.
Right.
And they are included in the original grant as well. So that would potentially be something if that ran into technical issues we'd have to address with the grant, right? Administrator.
Can you have a part A and part B on the bid, Tricia, and separate out the trailhead?
We could. We could either do the trailhead as a separate project or keep it all together in one project and have it bid as an alternate. I will tell you, when we do that, the contractor is going to bid it as if it is a separate project, because in their mind, if they have to remobilize, they have to account for that. So there could potentially be some cost savings or increases that you might see by pulling that out as an alternate. Does that make sense? I kind of muddled that explanation. In terms of timing with Overly Warman Park, just something else to consider as a part of the discussion. The rail trail is going to have a new bridge and new asphalt on the path. We're not in the point yet where Overly Warman is going to be done before the big 4 improvements. You still have a little bit of time based on that timeline. You're not going to want to repave this and open it before the bridge comes in for Overly Warman, because they would destroy it, when they bring that in. So from that aspect, you still have a little bit of time to consider these options and approve the plans tonight, or, wait till the next meeting. Just another option to think about.
Okay, I hear basically saying that there's cost savings to keep them together. Timing, we're okay to wait a month, and all the pressure goes on Roger and me to work on the trailhead property parcels. Is that yeah? And Roger, you can, again, a fallback position would be to make the trailhead an alternate if we can't make any enough headway in the next month on those properties. That sound like a plan, Roger, that we can do?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay. So we are tabling this.
More time to look through the plans.
Pardon? Yeah, and it's true, absolutely, yeah.
Get your red
Because
pen out.
I have another suggestion or question, maybe for Tricia. I remember when I was talking to the mayor about, I think fairly soon they're going to be releasing the plans for the entryway project, or not plans for that, but talking about, releasing the results where they're going to talk about, what to do up at the intersection of Sycamore and Street. And so the question was, if the town was going to build or have available a restroom facility in that area, then would we need another restroom facility at the trailhead? And I answer, because you mentioned that would be potentially a restroom that would benefit Overly Warman Park to that. So just something to think about in not knowing what is going to happen at the gateway area of the town, but just whether what happens there might have an impact on what we plan at our trailhead.
My opinion, trailhead should have a restroom.
yeah, when we fed that back to the town, we said, well, we're definitely going to have a restroom here because of the unique use, and it's also it may help you. Great if it does good on the gateway. We hope it does. It's a part of the gateway, really. It'll be all part of it, because now you can connect via walking, and it's not great seeing all the people walking and running and biking along the Zionsville road path. And now it'll all be one big cool circle. Come into town and then use the wayfinding project to get over to the rail trail. And then if you want to circle back down to Overly Warman Park, and it'll be wonderful, wonderful. All right, so that's tabled till next month. And I guess I'd take this opportunity to say, hey, did you see the mayor's State of the Town annual address? And just kudos to Jared and his staff and all of you on the Parks Board. So the parks are getting lots and lots of press and credit. The town council has invited Jared and me to do a update for them. They're excited. The town councilors are excited, and they want us to give them an update. And Next Level Trail grant is great. As the fiscal body, they're eating that. We all love that we're getting support from the state grant makers on this really great project. So we're getting lots of good vibe from citizens and from our council and mayor and her staff. Okay, I think we've already covered the dog park and the North Extension in the reports. Again, Tricia and REA are working on the engineering and construction documents for the North Extension. Are there any other board-related items for tonight's
Well,
meeting?
before we move off of the North Extension, we did talk last time about packaging that with the golf course cart path project. Is that still actively under consideration, Jerry?
Yep, we're moving forward with that and exploring what that'll look like when those documents are procured.
Okay. If we can make that work out close to the Heritage Trail Park expansion project, that would sure be great. But it doesn't sound like those two timelines are fitting together very well, are they?
We talked about that. Yep. And no, it seems like they're kind of on different. The parking is just desperately needed out there at Heritage Trail Park. But we did an assessment of the pathways that are in the golf course, and we'll work up a schematic plan so that we're all in agreement in the places that need to be repaired, and then of course the pathways that just need to be paved that haven't been. So you'll see that before we go into the full design.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there other board-related items that anyone has or would like to bring up?
Yeah, you wanted to talk about the Pathways Committee.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So we are invited every year to provide one of our members as a member of the Pathways Committee. The Pathways Committee is advisory to the town council, and they focus on helping suss out important connections and pathways in the town's pathway system. They have actually helped recommend to the town council with Lance. Lance and Jared are both members of this Pathways Committee. Our pathways are a part of our regional transportation plan because of the good work of the Pathways Committee over the years. And they also are involved with promoting pathways and Bike to School Day, for instance, or bike friendly designation from the League of American Bicyclists. And Sarah has asked that she's expressed her interest in serving on the Pathways Committee as the Parks Board designee. So I would like to nominate Sarah Moore as our nominee or as our designee to the Pathways Committee. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Jill Pack makes a second. Okay. All in favor, raise your hands. Looks unanimous, Sarah. You're the member of the
Me too.
Pathways. So they're reconstituting, and you've got some of the materials from Amy and that I'd sent you, so you're set. And let's talk sometime, and I can give you some background and history on that. So.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is claims. Claims have been submitted. Is there a motion to approve claims as submitted, or a question or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
Is there a second to John Stair's motion?
Second.
John Solovich seconds the motion to approve claims. There being no other questions, I'll do roll call vote. John Stair.
Aye.
John Wollenberg.
Aye.
Aye for John Wollenberg. Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Solovich.
Aye.
Aaron Bidwell.
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I also vote aye, so claims are unanimously approved. Is there a motion to adjourn? I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Third.
There's John Solovich seconds the motion to adjourn. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion to
Aye.
adjourn is unanimously passed. Our next board meeting is April 14th. And I believe we will be able, assuming town council continues, they've now gone to a live hybrid format of meeting. And assuming that stays in place and COVID numbers continue to diminish, we can expect our next April meeting to occur live or not. If you're not comfortable coming live, we should have options for you. But we should be back to town hall finally.
All right.